Hello everyone, and welcome to Monday Musing 23. Really racking through these Monday musings. So, right, well, tonight we are going to be discussing what's the best way to start collecting a new army. And this was driven by the fact that as I'm coming towards the end of my Gene Stealer cult, I need to make a start on my Caradron Overlords. And I kind of figured this is a question that pops up quite a lot in the chat as well, which is, I don't know what it is about our channel, whether it's common with other channels or not, but we seem to attract a lot of new gamers as well. And so we do see a recurring theme, what's the best way to start collecting an army? Where do I start? How do I start playing? Those kind of things. So I figured it's a useful thing to cover. And I think new or old, we can all have a little bit of a muse and a chat about how we do this. So why don't we start, before we go anywhere at all, having a wee think about who's in the chat and saying hello. So first and foremost, somebody be kind enough in the chat to just let me know that everything's okay and you can hear me loud and clear, because we have had a few audio problems over the last couple of weeks, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Anyway, it was an early start, actually. I think we had, if I remember rightly, Derpimus Maximus was here at some extremely early time. I think it was about 4 hours ago he was first on the chat, but we've had a good crowd in the chat for quite a while, actually. So hello, Derpimus Maximus. You did indeed shout first, and thus you deserve the mention. Coleman's been in there for a while. Marty Milligan is in there as well, and I think later on we were joined by, if I remember rightly, Surreal popping in and out. Ralph has been in, and we've had a great chat with Ralph. For those of you that were in the chat early, great chat with Ralph about translating books for Games Workshop, because that is indeed what Ralph does in his day job. So talking about the trials and tribulations of translating sci-fi. So even so, very jealous of him, because he's working on a new book right now, and he gets to see all of these things early. So wow, yeah, jealous, Ralph, jealous. Anyway, who else is in the chat? One thing I did mention is I'm coming, it's 23rd Monday Musing, so I was thinking, what's a good milestone? I think 25 is a good milestone. I might do a wee bit of a giveaway on my 25th Monday Musing. I'm not quite sure what. I'm just going to have a look on the gaming shelf and pull something out and do it as a giveaway. So it's not going to be huge or anything like that, but just as a little thank you for all of the people who keep coming along to the musings week after week. Right, okay, where are we? I'm going to try and catch up now. So, right, here we go. Alt Boys has joined us. We had a little bit of a chat, actually, with Ralph about passing varnishes through the airbrush and whether you do or don't thin them. Personally, I've never thinned them, but I appreciate with the gloss, you might have some fun with that. Neil Malden has joined us. Kablams is in there. Hey, Kablams, how are you doing? Thank you very much for joining me. Who have we got? Frank Storm saying hello. Mark Potter is in. We've been chatting about doing a game for the channel, actually, with Mr. Potter, so that should be fun, although I've got to work out what force I can use. I knew this would happen. I knew I would start coughing. I've got cough sweets just in case, so excuse me if I start coughing. It's going to happen. I'm still not 100% recovered from the the flu that I had, so we'll push on anyway. Scott Bile joined us and said, in thinking about start collecting boxes are the best way to start. Well, I do talk a little bit about the start collecting boxes as well. I agree with you. I think they're great. Excuse me. Right, just had to do that. That's better. Thank you. Alt Boys is in there. Best way of starting a new army is not laying down around 300 quid on a Sisters of Battle bundle. Yeah, that's been met with some derision from the community, hasn't it? I'm just going to pop this in. Apologies. Yeah, I think I talked about that on the weekend show. I can't believe they've done that, to be honest, but I think that pretty much puts a nail in the coffin as far as seeing Plastic Sisters, at least in the first half of this year, and I was surprised if we see them at all this year, but there you go. Sorry to burst that bubble. What else have we got? Retech 1001 is in there saying hi everyone. Rowlet 431 was saying he runs Grey Knights. What's my opinion of them? I love them. I love the fluff of them, actually. I really like the background story. I've only played against them a couple of times, and they've seemed pretty deadly, to be honest. I do think they'll be outshone a little bit, probably by Custodes, but, you know, either way, they're still an incredible army. And who else have we got? Medic 66666 coming in and say, start collecting box, army started. This is going to be a very short video. Well, like I say, I think there's a few things you can take into consideration. Furious George has jumped in. Liam is in there as well. DJ the Lucky One saying, hey peeps. Elster Nation is in there. Hey Elster Nation, how you doing? Oh, right, hold on. There was a big jump then in the chat. Alan Wadley saying hi. Jiroji. Oh, help me out with your pronunciation. Sorry about that. Saying hello. Fellhate is in there. Wolfgar is in there as well. And Elias AM is saying hello everyone. Wow. And Jayville saying hey. So there's huge, wow, few new faces in here as well, so that's all cool. What have we got going off? A lot of people saying hi and hello. A couple of Wargamer Onlines. Coleman, sorry, what did you say? Oh, don't say that. Oh wait, yeah, right, what did he say? I'm confused now. So out of curiosity, my wife has come to terms with a beard that may be here to stay. Oh, that's coming from Surreal, is it? Has the wife come to terms with the beard that may be here to stay? For me, yes, she's come to terms with the beard. There is no doubt that the beard is staying. In fact, I joked about shaving it off and she said you can't now. The beard has more of a presence than you do. So there you go. The beard is staying. Although it does desperately need a trim. It's out of control again. Derpimus Maximus says, for a change, I'm hobbying more than talking. Fantastic. Get some hobby done. I've actually managed to do a bit tonight, believe it or not. I set the show up, had a few technical problems at the very start, but managed to get things up and running quickly, so that was pretty cool. I'm just seeing if I drop to that one. There you go. How about that? Let's just click that. And let's at least get the title of the show up, which may help some people along. At least they know what we're going to be talking about. Furious George saying, I still need to do the December giveaway first. Indeed I do, and I think the plan is to do that on Wednesday, so I'll be doing that show on Wednesday. I'll be doing a live random selection from the list. As I said, I'd already exported the list from our various systems, so I've got the YouTube members and the premium members, although I did say I'll refresh the premium membership, and anybody who's joined, you know, in the interim can be added into that as well. I think that's only fair. So that's a £50 for the YouTube. Check out the video. It's on one of our previous ones. It was launched at the beginning of December. And £100 to a premium member as well. So, and if anybody was keeping a track of the Facebook page, you probably saw what the winners did with their prizes. So, pretty good deal. Jayville is painting some orcs while listening to this. Paul Collier says, evening all, happy Monday. Hope all is okay at the Wargamer Online world. It is, yes. Both myself and Sam had a bit of a crazy start to the year. But as we were saying on Saturday, I think we're kind of both over that now and just getting on with the year. Mark Potter says, it's okay, Phil. I have an alternative army to use in a game I'd completely forgotten about. Well, that's good news. Otherwise, it was going to be Sylvaneth versus Sylvaneth, I think. So you'll have to let me know what that is, or are you keeping it a secret so I can't prep? Retep says the best way of choosing is what you want, even if it might not be overpowered, as the Imperium versus Chaos. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit. We Sadie is saying hello. Oh, goodness me, the chat is properly hammering along tonight. So what I'll do, I'll just have a quick look down and see if there's, you say it with a J. So first time someone said it with a G. So Jiroji, how about that? Jiroji. Is that okay then? I hope I've got it right. It's always terrible when someone gets the name wrong, so apologies. So this is how I started my army. No, do not do that. Go on Forge World and buy the cool stuff. Yeah, okay. Maybe Forge World is not the beginning start of everything, but we'll see. Right, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to work through a few things, and oh, Jet Set Jimbo is in as well. Awesome, that's brilliant. Oh no, look, there's so much going off in the chat, but I'm going to push on with the show. We've got an hour tonight. What time is it? I'll just do a quick check. We're 10 minutes past. It's not the fastest catch up on the chat I've done, is it? But let's see what we can do. You know, the only thing is I set some new screens up for this, and I've completely forgot the order. which to do them in. How about that? Look, am I still here? And there's still audio. Well, what's the best way to start a new army? I had to think about this. I had to think about a few things that I think come into play when you're sort of making that decision, or at least a few questions you could ask yourself, I suppose, would be a good place to start. I mean, first and foremost, what models do you like? I got into it seems a simple question, doesn't it? But I do think it's important. You know, if I was to look at Caradron Overlords, it was this model. It was the this huge, great big ship that absolutely hook, line, and sinker as far as Caradron Overlords was concerned. Wasn't particularly too keen on the troops. That didn't, you know, caught my eye. Later, actually, a later release was the big character, and that's just amazing. So again, you started to see, you know, a likening to some of the smaller models, but certainly the thing that drew my eye straight away was this huge ship, and I just saw all the possibilities in terms of painting. I saw all the possibilities in terms of conversion, and it was all the kind of things that would get me excited. I mean, interestingly enough, at this point, I've not made any decision about gameplay, whether it's any good or not. I think you're fair to say, though, and maybe this is for a consideration, is how new is that army? Certainly if you want it to be competitive, you know, if it's a fairly recent release, then chances are it's going to be at the front of the meta. Chances are, not always, but you never know. Certainly, I think one of the things you probably need to consider, I did this wonderful little diagram. Do you like it? I hope you like it. What's your gamer style like? That's the wrong title, so there you go. I do. I can't believe I left the wrong title on, but there you go. I think for me, the more you like the model, essentially, the more you're attracted to the aesthetic of the army. I think the motivation's going to increase as well, and that's really, really important in starting a new army. Because I do think one of the most important things when you start a new army is a pretty safe and secure knowledge that you're going to be able to finish that army as well. So spend some time thinking about that. You know, go back to the example I just gave. There was one model that really turned me on to the range. But if that's the only model in the entire range I like, then the chances are that I think overall my motivation wouldn't last throughout the painting of, you know, at the end of the day, it's quite a commitment. Some of these models are quite a commitment in time just to actually build, never mind about paint, before you get to the stage of gaming. And, you know, I'm not going to get too much into whether you play with plastic grey models or not. I don't mind it. I don't mind if people have test games and those kind of things. And some people don't like painting, but, you know, I think from my perspective, I certainly want to know that I'm going to remain motivated on that army, that I'm going to keep interested in it throughout it. So it's not going to turn into a chore to get that army done. So do consider the aesthetic of the army, do consider the look and feel of the army, you know, and pay close attention to that, because it is an important factor. When you're thinking, what models do I like? It's a deeper question than just, yeah, I like the look of that. Is, will I remain motivated? Will I enjoy building them? Will I enjoy painting them? Are they within my capabilities, or will I get frustrated? So, you know, it's no secret that some models are harder to paint than others. I think if you're starting your very first army, it's probably a relatively good idea to also think about some of the easier to paint armies. I mean, a classic 40k army that's very easy to paint, or can be easy to paint, for instance, is Necrons. You can be off the ball very quickly with that army. But either way, give some consideration into what you like. I certainly think another consideration is what playstyle do you like? That's something that's you know, well worth considering. And you know what I mean by that is, you know, if you've got no experience, spend some time in gaming stalls and see some of these armies at play, because each army, you know, in a general principle, fits in a different place as far as the meta is concerned. If you were to say take, you know, Eldari, they've got high mobility. They're an army that you're meant to move around very quickly around the table, but also importantly, they've got fairly decent range weaponry as well. So they're a relatively long range army, but they're also incredibly highly mobile. You don't see, you know, there are a couple of exceptions, but the play style is generally like that. I mean, interestingly enough, with some of the broader ranges, so if we were to take Eldari, you can actually play them differently. You can take a Wraith army, which has got less in terms of mobility and shorter range, but, you know, incredibly hard hitting. But, you know, I think, you know, the Eldar are a little bit of an exception to the rule because there's such a broad range and so many models, it enables you for all that different play style. You know, if you were to take something like Orcs in 40k, you know, they're a not particularly mobile army. With the trucks and all the rest, then you can have a lot of fun with them. And they're not great at range, to be honest. You know, when you've got Ballistic Steel 5, you know, what you're looking at really is a combat army. You know, do you enjoy that? Are you about charging at your enemy and mashing them to pieces, or do you want to sit back with gun lines and shoot, you know, out of people? Iron Jaws in Age of Sigmar, again, you know, a similar principle really. They're not particularly fast, nor do they, you know, nor are they good at range. So this is definitely an army you're going to have to march across the table before you can actually, you know, get them into combat. And if you don't like that play style, you know, if you're going to get frustrated by losing casualties along the way as you do that march, and, you know, if you're not quite sure how to do that, you're going to find the army frustrating to play. Likewise, if you like close combat, then you're not really going to have a huge amount of fun with Eldar, I don't think. Sylvaneth, you know, I think they're relatively mobile because they can use the Sylvaneth Wildwoods to sort of teleport around the table, but they've not got a huge amount of range options. You know, there's some of the Tree Lords that have longer range, and obviously the Kurnoth Hunters with the bows can provide range, but again, not an army that's known for its range weaponry, not particularly an army that's, you know, known for sitting and doing gun lines at all. This is a mobile army that you get into, you know, into closer range with the enemy and take them on. Astra Militarum, I think, is a classic example of played in a traditional sense, low mobility, huge amount of range weaponry. So this is about shooting the hell out of somebody from a distance and forming great big gun lines. And in fact, their very rule mechanic sort of benefits from that, you know, first rank fire, second rank fire, etc. Again, they're general principles. It's not something that, you know, is an exact rule, because you can play, you know, a combat version of Astra Militarum, for instance. It's not a great idea, but it can be done, or at least close quarters. I mean, the other thing is to consider maybe some different axes. Do you like horde armies? Do you like psychic powers and magic powers? You know, if we would just, you know, have a look at some of this, you know, positioning now, it's, you know, you're thinking of a different axis and it has a different impact of where that army sits. So, you know, Eldari, lots of psychic powers. They're fairly much an elite army. Iron Jaws, not a lot of magic powers, and absolutely an elite army. So this is a combat-heavy elite army, whereas if we were to take something like Sylvaneth, then yeah, there's a degree of magic and, you know, powers at play with that army. But they're also an army that you can play as a horde. You know, you can spam dryads, you know, forever. Again, Astra Militarum can be played, you know, as a horde army. You can have a huge amount of troops, or you can go tank heavy with them and, you know, play them differently. So I don't think you have to apply an army to a particular play style, because some of those armies can, you know, play different roles in 40k and in Age of Sigmar, depending on how broad the range is. But do think about how you want to play them, because that helps form the kind of models you want to buy. So give some thought about what style do you like, you know, what play style do you like. I have to say, for me, you know, I think I started with Eldar, so high mobility. I struggle with armies that don't move very quickly, I have to say. It's just because most of my gameplay has been based around mobility. I do like range weaponry, I have to say. And the difficulty for me when I moved, say, from Eldar to Sylvaneth was understanding that actually I've got to focus more on combat tactics now, which is all about positioning and maneuvering and piling and all the rest. So there are some different stuff. Okay, what I want to do is catch up a little bit on the chat before we move on. So let's just see what's going off. Elias says, well-painted Necrons is quite repetitive, especially if you spam warriors. Agreed, it is repetitive, but you know, you could probably get them done quite quickly, I suppose. Wolfgar says, as to the question of the night, I'm now 20 years out of the game and I'm starting a brand new 1,000 Suns 1,000 point army, as they still fascinate me, and on the plus side I can, and then it disappears. Oh, cross over to Warhammer Zeech army. Great, good thinking. I mean, you're thinking about multiple systems, you're thinking about an army that intrigues you, and you've also set yourself a target in terms of point size, which I think is a great idea. Marlborough 69 says, buy Space Marines and more Space Marines. Well, that's fair enough then. Kablam says, time in game stores watching Pat watch WGO bat reps. Well, fair enough, you can watch bat reps. You know, bear in mind, I think, well, actually, you know what, that is a good idea, because you can ask questions in the bat reps as well. You know, on YouTube you've got the ability to comment and ask questions, so it's a good idea, get in the forums and those kind of things. But I think it's nice to stand at the side of a table as well and see a gameplay. I mean, if you're in the UK, get to Warhammer Worlds, because generally just to walk around Warhammer World, you will see a good range of armies on play. And I don't know any single player who's not happy to talk about their army and how it plays. Wolfgar says, by the way, you got back into GW from watching this channel. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to have you with us. That's brilliant. Marlborough's saying death to heretics, Xenos and anybody else. Well, there you go. I'm getting the feeling that Marlborough's all about the Imperium, which is fair enough. Neil Morden says, tell that to all my friends. God, while I shot him to death and then Bash was left. Well, never mind. Poor God. Retep says Astra is just the better Tau, sadly but true. Well, yeah, you probably are at the current meta. I mean, we'll see what they do with Tau. And look, okay, everybody's having a go now at Sylvaneth, but Plague, Teleportation, Magic, bringing back Killed Dryads, shocking War Scroll. There you go. Derpimus Maximus is saying it's all about Basilisk, Shadow Swords, and Beyblades. Well, you've gone straight for the big armies there, haven't you? So, well, there you go. Right, okay, let's have a look at a couple more things then for consideration. This might not be a popular one. It certainly informed my very first 40k army when I returned to the game. What do your friends play? Sam finds this quite demotivating. If too many people have got an army, he doesn't particularly want to play and collect it, because he kind of feels it's already been done, and I think that's a fair enough point to have. Saying that, you know, I think you can kind of do those armies and, you know, paint them to your own style and do your own style play. I don't think necessarily this is the best thing to inform, but I do think there's something around old enemies. You know, if we were to take the Eldari versus Slanesh, if you to take Astra Militarium versus Orcs, or Sylvaneth versus Nurgle, or Grey Knights versus Demons, the reason those kind of old rivalries are really useful, I suppose, is because you find a wealth of material to base games around. So if we were to take Sylvaneth versus Nurgle, there's a whole bunch in Age of Sigmar with scenarios both contained within the codexes but also contained in some of the supplements and those kind of things. So you get sorry, not codexes, battle tomes and stuff. So you get all of those extra scenarios to play, and it's a lot of fun. And there's nothing like rivalry between friends, isn't there? I mean, if I was doing a Sylvaneth army and Jack's got his Nurgle army, we're sort of smashing those against each other, and it's nice when it's thematic like that, because we know those two have been at each other's throats for a long time in the realms of Age of Sigmar. So it's worth considering something, and I do think it helps, you know, if you go for something that's, you know, less common, because it does enable you to feel unique, and it stops you sort of having the, you know, Space Marines versus Space Marines, or Sylvaneth versus Sylvaneth. You know, it depends on how big your gaming circuit is, and it depends whether you're interested in a local gaming circle. Obviously, if it's tournaments, you're going to come up a whole bunch of range, so don't use that to inform it. But do remember there's material there, so I think that can help. And like I say, I certainly, when I'm playing with Jack, we have a lot of fun, you know, using the unique scenarios within the battle tomes. Right. So on the question of, you know, what do your friends play, I think it can inform it. I don't think it should be up there in the top of the list of what you're looking for, I suppose. Right, let's have a look at the chat. Scott Beale says, having a fluff / store for your army and development. Having fluff store for your army and development is okay. Slightly confused by what that means, but yes, I think if you mean having some background to them and all the rest helps. And developing background for your army is definitely useful. Kablam says, considering Friends Army is something I tend to do, I go for armies that are less common. Well, there you go. I think it's, you know, like I say, it's nice because you get more range than in terms of the playing. But I don't think it should override you then buying an army you don't particularly like the aesthetic of, because I'm back to that point about, I think you need to remain motivated, don't you? You've got to be motivated to finish those armies and paint those armies. It's a significant investment in time. Okay, Coleman. Right. Okay, that's a few questions I think in between. Retet 1001 says, who plays Slaanesh anyway? Haven't seen a Slaaneshi army in our local GW or comic shop. I think it's a shame. I saw a Slaanesh army at Warhammer World when I was last there, and it looked absolutely fabulous. And they do get a distinct advantage against Eldar. Whether it's enough to make them competitive or not, I don't know. I wouldn't know. Anyway. What else have we got we could consider? What type of gamer are you is probably a significant factor, and this is where they get the correctly titled gamer style. I think this is important that you're honest with yourself at this stage. You know, are you a highly competitive person? In that case, I think you do need to do some research into what are effective armies out there. That's not necessarily about getting net lists and building to suit that, although that's a possibility. You know, find those tournament lists and build to them and work out what makes them most effective. But I do think you need to be honest with yourself. If you're a competitive player, right now, you don't want to be playing orcs in 40k. If you're a competitive player, you don't want to be playing Genestealer Cult in 40k, probably, you know, because those armies are really struggling right now. I mean, no doubt a new codex will come along, which would be fantastic if that's the case. But, you know, if you spend ages building your models and getting them painted and you show up to your first game and you get absolutely hammered in 2 turns, which is a possibility anyway because you're learning the army for the first time, that can be incredibly demoralizing. So bear that in mind. If you're not competitive, if it's all about the fun, if it's all about the aesthetic, if it's more about the hobby side of it, then cool. You know, pick what you want. And if you don't mind whether they work or not, you know, who cares? I have to say, you know, I've worked through my Genestealer Cult knowing all along, with the help of Elster Nation, by the way. Thank you very much, Elster Nation. Knowing all along they're not going to be a particularly competitive army. I still love them. I just love the models. So I've still remained motivated about it. Right. What else? Well, we've covered what type of gamer are you. Maybe another good starting point is what's in the start collecting set. Start collecting sets generally are good value. Some are better value than others. Definitely worth considering. I think I've talked a little bit about Sylvaneth. The Sylvaneth start collecting set is an interesting point. You get 16 Dryads, Tree Lord, of which, you know, it's the entire sprue, so you can make it up of any of the Tree Lords, and a Branch Witch. Branch Witch is a beautiful model. The Dryads are beautiful models. The original Dryads came in boxes of 16 in Warhammer Fantasy. We all know that the match play in Age of Sigmar goes up in 10s, so it's 10, 20, 30. You can have up to a unit of 30 in Age of Sigmar. So having 16 models, if you're going to be playing match play, you've immediately got 4 models that, you know, doesn't really make a lot of sense. Generally, you're either paying too many points for them or not. So it's a weird old start collecting set, that. But, you know, still good value as far as the models contained within. For £50, it's not a bad price. But give that some thought. Do the start collecting sets, have they got some kind of a legacy unit sizes that predate the current system that's in play? I mean, looking at the start collecting set in terms of point value, it's quite interesting to see that, you know, it's 480 points. Now, that's only counting 10 models for the dryads, you could pay an additional 100 points to get the remaining 6 dryad models into your army. But give it some thought, spend some time and do some research into how the army is made up. I mean, in this point, by the way, I'm making the model up as a Tree Lord Ancient, so I'm giving myself another HQ option. You don't have to do that. It could be done as just as a Tree Lord, but, you know, I think you'd probably definitely want to go in that route. Needless to say, give some consideration of what's in the start collecting. I mean, I have to say, there are other things that you could consider. Okay, where am I there? Like, for instance, these wonderful things. You know, this came out just before Christmas, and this was the army box for Caradon Overlord, and that's a great set, but double the price of a start collecting. I think it was £100 or £90, can't remember now. But do have a look around for those things. Okay, let's have a little look at the chat, see if anything else is going off. So, how do you bring dryads in match play? I'm not sure, actually. I've not been. Maybe there is a way, but I'm not sure about that. I know you can. Actually, you can summon them. So I don't think you can bring them back, but you can summon them. Or is it? You know what? There are some spells where you can bring them back, but you have to roll 2d6 for the amount that could come back. That's why I've never used that rule, because it's always a bit weird what happens if you get 3 models back. It's a bit strange, I think. I have to double check that. That might even be a summoning rule anyway. Orc Boys is saying evenings, and a whole bunch of people saying, so that's Paulos joining us. So that's hi Phil. Hope everyone hello everyone, hope you're all well. Yes, I am, thank you very much. A couple of people have popped out. Elster Nation says, I do tend to find finishing model motivates me to paint more. Well, there's a good example. You know, stick to it as well. Get some models completed, get them on the shelf, put them right in front of you, and use those to motivate yourself to keep going. But then again, Elster Nation, you are a model painting machine, so what can we say? Scott says, eBay can be a great way of start collecting if you're willing to do the work on hunting the listings. Good point. There's a lot of people that buy these armies and get tired of them and stick them on eBay. And if you don't mind the fact they're coming pre-build, although, you know, again, on eBay you get unbuilt models as well, don't you? So do some digging around. Iron Jaw start collecting is crazy value. That's from DJ the Lucky One. Exactly. Some of them are great value, some of them not so. Give some attention to that, but it shouldn't be your only axis for deciding what to do. Black Rider Bob says, I started playing Tyrannies but realised that Horde armies aren't for me. I don't have the time or money for them. So, Andrew Fulton's just subscribed. Hey Andrew, if you're on right now. Don't have the money for them, and I started playing Death Guard, which the models I love, which helps motivate me. Well, there you go. You know, if you can, you know, try and borrow an army as well and try the play style out. It does mean investing some time reading up into the gameplay. I have to say, this entire chat, I suppose, is based around if you're starting an army specifically for playing the game with. I mean, I know that some people do the armies just for collection purposes, which is cool, in which case buy and paint and build the models you want. It's a very straightforward, simple decision. But if you are thinking about the gameplay, then yeah, see if you can borrow an army, see if you can proxy models, you know, get hold of the rules in the game store, read through the battle tomes or the codexes and get a feel for them. Kablam says, do you think the allies, grand factions, etc. can be harmful or confusing for brand new players? It must be very confusing and daunting when making those first purchases. Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, and I suppose this is the point around the start collecting boxes. I think Games Workshop need to put a little... Yeah, I think they're great in terms of value, I have to say that. I do think they need to put some thought into them actually being... a starter for the gaming system. You know, okay, you could use the Sylvan F1. It comes with a battle scroll in there as well, so you get some bonus rules for taking that, you know, that set of models. But at the same time, like I say, it's 16 dryads, and you know, each sprue contains 4 dryads. Just add one more sprue and you've got 20 dryads, and it actually works for the gaming system then in terms of match play. So I do wish they'd actually think about how it actually fits within the match play. Now, I know they'll give you loads of excuses why it would or wouldn't, but, you know, they completely reboxed the Sylvanus set, so why not just add the 4 extra Dryads? Straightforward. Anyway, still, that's me off my IOS. It's not a problem anyway, but, you know, give it some thought. Betrayal at Calf is awesome. It forms the core of my Fallen army. Well, yeah, there's a really good point. You know, look for those starter sets and all the rest, because you really can pick a load of models up. What was the one that had all the Harlequins in? I can't remember the game that came with all the Harlequins, but that was a ridiculous bargain. Was it Deathwatch? It might be Deathwatch that had all the Harlequins. That was crazy value. Okay, Ralph's done with his varnishing. A few people saying hello. Ralph says, eBay is really the best way to get an army started if you're willing, and maybe strip miniatures to repaint. Just bought 37 Space Wolves for less than €30, including shipping. Well, there you go. Although you do have to have the confidence to strip the models, you also have the chance that the models may or may not have been built well and had, you know, it depends on your own set of standards. You know, have they cleaned all the flash lines off and all the rest? But I know, Ralph, you're a, you know, very competent hobbyist, so I'm sure you're not concerned about having to strip models down or maybe tidy them up if they've not been put together too well. Ralph was actually saying, to be fair, they're not badly painted, so you could just play them straight away. That's cool. Right, okay then. Oh, Hovas says, I'm collecting Sylvaneth. Love the models and how they play, but the woods are expensive. They are expensive, yes, and I need to buy 2 more sets. And it is frustrating because it does feel like you're taking... You know what? You know, it feels like you're taking scenery to the game, but I suppose you are, but, you know. The other thing is with the woods, the reason I'm having to buy 2 more and I need to chop up some old ones is I'm going to chop the trunk halfway down and magnetize the top of the tree. So when you move a unit into there, you can just remove the tops of the trees so you can position them around the stumps. That's what I'm going to do, because I'm funny like that. Still, what else? Let's have a think about. Start small and build on it. I think this is a really good point. You know, you can just think, I'm going to aim for 1,000 points, maybe have, you know, increments of 500 points. I want a 1,500 point army, a 2,000 point army, and keep building up. And I think a great way of doing that is to use something like the War Scroll Builder. You know, if I was to go, say, to this, when I started working on my Caradron Overlords, you know, it's a really good idea to sort of say, okay, well, the first thing I need to do is to get 1,000 points together. That's a reasonable amount of models to aim for. You know, I don't think you want to start less than 1,000 points, because I don't think you'd have enjoyable games with them. But, you know, like I say, sometimes it's about starting with 1 model. I really like Baraknar. That's what I'm going with as far as my Skyport's concerned. You know, the cheapest way is in terms of I think of a decent leader for 1,000 points is probably start with the you know, the Arcanaut Admiral, and then it's a question of putting some companies in there. You know, I might want to go with 2 units of companies, maybe with the Thunderers or something like that, and you'll quickly see I'm up to, you know, 480 points. But I definitely want to put something like, say, a frigate in there, maybe, because it's such a great model. And, you know, I'm soon getting up to 760 points, you know, and then maybe just, you know, having a look around at what else I'd want to add to that. I'd probably definitely want to add something like a gun hauler as well. How am I doing? 980 points. There you go. You know, I've set myself 1,000 point army. It seems relatively well balanced. You know, it might not be the most optimal, it might not be the best idea, but the point is I've got some leaders, I've got a few units in there, I've got a nice, you know, couple of vehicles in there, a couple of war machines in there. That'll be a good fun army to start with. Now I could alternatively just work out the list, what's contained in this box, but you know, and in fact, actually, I'm not a million miles off, am I? You know, I could probably, just looking at that box, change that to, it looks like there is 1 company in there and I'm going to get rid of the Thunderers, and I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to add some Sky Wardens in there, because that looks like what I get with the model. And what are we at there? I mean, that box has got 860 points in before I even go anywhere else. So maybe don't always rush out. Once you've decided the aesthetic and you've chosen the faction you're going for, I suppose, once you've chosen it based on the model, start thinking about the list. Start thinking about building that army so you can get some gameplay in relatively quickly as well. So, you know, like I say, I still definitely, you'll notice this list doesn't contain my favorite model. So I want that ironclad in there. So here I am at 1,300 points already. You know, make sure you're doing the stuff that you're going to enjoy first as well, even if it doesn't quite squeeze in those things. I don't think there has to be any hard and fast rule with this. Right, okay. What else have we got? I think that was on the start small and build on it. Most importantly, as I said, back to what models do you like? What do you enjoy painting? It's a big part of the hobby. Nothing looks better than a painted army on the table, and whether it's base coats and washes, whether it's edge highlight every single panel, I don't mind. You know, they don't have to be all demon, golden demon winners, but a painted army on the table looks great. So think about whether you're going to actually enjoy doing that. What do you enjoy playing? And as I've said, there's a few ways you can do that. Thank you, Kablams. Back reports is a great place to start. Do they look like the kind of play style you want? But also get over to some of the gaming places, talk to some of the players, give it some consideration. So there you go. That was my 20-30 minutes worth of where I'd start. I think, you know, give some consideration to aesthetic, give some consideration to whether you're going to remain motivated to get that 1,000 points finished. Start small, start realistic, include some of the models that you love. Unless, of course, all that overrides this is if you're a super competitive army, then your motivation is going to come from the gameplay on the table. In which case, start from a different angle. Start looking at what armies are performing very well in tournaments, what you know is going to perform well. But for me, that's not where I start. I start with the models because it's the hobby side of it that gives me my motivation. Let's have a quick look through the chat, and then we can just open it up for some general questions. Or alternatively, there's a couple of cool things been going off on the forum at the moment, so I thought I'd have a look at that. So what's going off on the chat? Gonk says, I'd like to start Death Corps of Krieg army, but I only have 2 kidneys to sell. Well, there you go. And once you've sold those, then you're in no fit state to play with them. They are indeed an absolute beautiful army, Gonk. I agree with you. That would be one of those armies that I'd love to do at some point, but yeah, the price is just crazy. Tabletop War James is joining us. Hello, hi Tabletop War James, how you doing, mate? Oh, I missed that comment earlier. Sorry about that. And right, what else is going off? Imported pledge from American. It does worth both matte and gloss. We're back onto in the chat. We're back onto gloss paint through an airbrush. So there you go. Just bring some pledge. Is that the floor polish that you use as a carrier basically for it? Kablam says, I'm tempted to get the new Nurgle tree for my Skaven. It is crazy, that Nurgle tree. It's absolutely fantastic. I was talking to Liam the other night as he was building it, and it's a beautiful looking model. It's incredible. You have a lot of fun with that. What else have we got going off? Hobbyman UK says, for price and quality, you can't go wrong with Bolt Action and Conflict 47. I agree. I spent a bit of time this weekend. It was on Sunday, actually, sorting through my Russian forces because I was trying to get a list together of things I need to get complete this year. So I was going through what I need to do to get a decent Russian force up and running. Although I've got the Conflict 47 starter set, I am probably going to be building it as Bolt Action though to start with. Right, okay, Palos has got to go, so we'll catch up with the show tomorrow. Well, thank you for joining us and stay safe yourself. Frank Storm says, so far, anything but Tau. I really don't understand why they get so much hate. I know they were like super shooty in 7th edition, and they probably just drove everybody crazy, but I have to say, secretly, I like the models. There you go, I've said it. I was very close to starting a Tau army at one point. And in fact, back down to what army do your friends play, the only reason I didn't do Tau and went for Eldar is because one of Jack's friends, at the time Jack was choosing Space Wolves, he beat me to Tau by about 30 minutes and decided to do Tau. So there you go. You could have accidentally been talking to a Tau player there if it wasn't for that twist of fate, which took me onto Eldar. Elster Nation says, I guess a thought would be is how much do you want to spend, and could include someone to paint your army if you do, if you're not interested in painting. Good point, Elster Nation. You know, again, maybe another way would be to go for the eBay armies, and if you strip them and then provide them to a painter, because the money you save then on buying second-hand miniatures could help go towards a commission painter. So maybe a good place to start. And as long as you do a good job of stripping the models, then and be realistic that if you don't, then there's only so much the commission painter could do, I suppose. Scott says, any paint on an army always looks better than no paint. Prime and a wash is better than nothing. I absolutely agree. Hobbyman UK says, will you be uploading more bolt action content? We certainly will. I don't think you're going to see any in the next couple of weeks, put it that way. But we certainly will. You know that you know, Sam really likes the system. I've seen one of the game demonstrated, and I really like the look of the game as well. Right now the focus for the first month or so is going to be I think, you know, split between Age of Sigmar and 40k, mainly Age of Sigmar, I suppose. In terms of our actual hobby time ourselves, I'm not necessarily talking about channel content, because we've got the tournament coming up in March that we're doing the doubles, and Patrick is coming over to play the doubles again. So I believe Patrick's coming over to stay with me, so we're going to get some more games in. We're going to see more of his beautiful Zeech. Certainly this year as well, I want to try and do more guest games. So one of the things I've considered trying to do is, if there are people out there with bolt action armies that if someone's got more than one army, then come show me the game and we could film a battle report anyway. So I think that's a good way of us getting some content up. Excuse me. Ralph says, miniature stripping isopropanol alcohol is your best friend. Yes, it is, but check their plastic miniatures, because I'm not sure it's super friendly with resin. Jiroji says, I have a hard time to decide between two armies, Necrons or Admech. I like the playstyle of Necron, the Never Dying Army, and I like the Admech model for their firepower. Well, there you go. If you have a hard time deciding between two, do both. But start small on both, maybe. I think there's something to be said for not doing too much of a single thing, you know, to actually have a couple of projects on the go that you can jump from one to the other helps in terms of motivation as well. Sometimes that's about having a couple of models on the go at the same time, or it's about painting a unit, then painting a vehicle, then painting a unit and painting a vehicle to keep motivated. Or sometimes it's just about do a few Necrons, do a few Admech. You know, all of that helps keep you motivated. I do think, you know, one of the things I didn't explicitly say, I suppose, is, you know, what keeps you motivated is a good consideration for starting a new army, because it is a lot of work. That's the thing, you know, I'm looking at these Caradron Overlords, and if you actually start doing the math on what's involved on getting them painted, I don't think you'd ever get started. Get started. Maybe that should have been in the general gist of all of this as well, is just get started. Rowlett says, what do you recommend to thin paint, and and how to apply paint, and what is the cheapest way? Well, it depends whether you mean for airbrushing or hand painting. Certainly if you're hand painting and you're going to thin paint, personally, particularly Citadel paint, I'm a big fan of the Citadel medium, the Larmian medium. I'm a big fan of that because I think it actually acts as a carrier and genuinely thins the paint. Watering paints down is perfectly acceptable. Using water is perfectly acceptable as well. But there's some instances where the medium is really useful. For instance, I think thinning washes is better done with the medium, the Lamium medium, than it is with water. But if you're simply thinning to put multiple coats on, then water's perfectly acceptable, you know, as long as you don't over thin and it goes everywhere, of course. So water or medium, particularly depending on the model. If you're talking about through an airbrush, again, to a degree, it depends on the paint, but I'm a big fan of the the Tamiya XV80, I think it's called. Big fan of that as a thinner, although you can use isopropanol as well. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people adding great choices as well on the stuff. P3 Formula 3. P Formula, is that the paint? Okay. Right. What else is there going off on the chat? I'm not sure whether there is. I think we're up to date on the chat. We did really well tonight, didn't we? Anybody else got any thoughts on getting started on an army? Any tips for anybody who's tuning into this once it's finished and it's no longer a live show? DJ the Lucky One says, Phil just finished 1,000 points of Karajan Barak Ziflin. Wow. Okay, I'm a little bit jealous. I'll maybe want to talk to you about what was in your 1,000 points. Hobbyman UK says, thinning paint, Liquitex airbrush medium is excellent for brush and obviously airbrushing. Well, there you go. Yeah, I've not actually used the Liquitex airbrushing medium, I don't think. No, I haven't. I might have to check that out, Hobbyman UK. Thank you very much for that. Billy Lynch says, I have a problem. I like everything. Currently, I have 40k Necrons, Tyranids, Space Marines, Salamanders, and Elders, all fully. And Age of Sigmar, I have Khorne, Bloodbound, Stormcast, and Zeech. Well, there you go. Well, it's not a bad thing if you like everything. Are they complete and playable armies? You know, have you got to that stage? Because there's nothing wrong with Mina Flutterby and jumping from one army to the next. I've got a fair list of armies myself. I think I have at least learned that to try and have that discipline to get to the point of a playable army, if you like. So I have to say, I think with my Genestealer Cult, I probably went too far, because my opening gambit of Genestealer Cult is about 2,500 points worth of miniatures. And when I did my Sylvaneth, I actually painted 3,000 points in one go. Bear in mind, I chose an appropriate paint style so I could do that, but boy, that was hard work. It was hard to keep motivated across all of those models. Paul Collier says, keeping a hobby log on a site is a great motivation, and go to the WGO forum is a perfect place for that. Well, I was looking at the forum earlier, actually, and it's pretty cool what's going on there at the moment. I was checking out some of the hobby blogs that are going on there. Tom Space Wolves, really awesome stuff on there at the moment. I'm not quite sure, because I'm broadcasting, it does slow my internet down a little bit, but you'll see the general gist of it. I was really loving on the forum. Yeah, here we go. This has got to be Bjorn, isn't it? Is this Bjorn? I think it is. It is Bjorn, isn't it? I'm sure it is when he's got the big axe. Could be wrong though, but look at this. This is awesome. So this is brilliant. He's keeping a full blog of progress on the army. Absolutely love it. Great painting. Lovely little bits where he's picking out the highlights and the corners and those kind of things. Really makes the model stand out. He's just working through some Fenrisian walls. And lovely little tip there on his hobby blog. He's using little chewed up bits of plastic sprue for rocks as well for the bases. So that's so cool. So brilliant hobby blog. There's loads on there at the moment. So do check out the forum. Keeping a blog definitely helps. People are chatting away on there, and there's all sorts of stuff. And good news is, as well, is we've now got this new little bit of functionality on the blog where you've got the @ symbol as well. So you can put @Collier79 and they will receive an email and let them know you've commented on their posting. If we go into that, then there's a whole bunch of stuff on project logs. There's 40k project logs and Age of Sigmar project logs and all those kind of things. So that's pretty cool at the moment. You know, that I think the forum has been ticking along over Christmas. I've been really quiet, but that's my fault. I've been super poorly over Christmas, so I didn't quite get things done, but I'm getting there now. But a lot going off, and it's really nice to see people coming along and posting stuff up on the forum and really gaining some momentum on there as well. I do like actually how the forum displays images as well, so you get these lovely full screen images sort of inset within the forum. Oh, that's so cool. That's great. That's really nice on the face. Oh man, I haven't properly looked at these. That's my fault. I need to come back and check that out. So check out what's going off on the forum as well. Right, what else? Well, I think we're probably getting to the end of the show, really. I promised myself I'd only do an hour tonight. Unfortunately, for those of you who know about my back problems, the operation was some time ago now, and it looks like some of the symptoms are starting to creep back in, which they did say it would do, but I am starting to suffer today. That's a bit of a bummer, but you never know. At least I'm getting some hobby done at the moment. Right, what else is going off? Oh my goodness, there's been quite a lot of chat in the last 20 seconds. A load of people talking about different thinners. 20% acrylic matte medium, 50% distilled water, 25% isopropanol alcohol, 5% undiluted flow improver. Well, there you go. That is the perfect homemade batch and is a lot cheaper. If you can buy all of those parts, you will be able to make yourself a ton of that stuff. Alstonation says, I would say either write down your paint scheme so you can repeat it, or paint the whole army at the same time. Agreed. I have to confess, there's a couple of times I've had to go back to my own painting tutorials so I can remember how they were painted. That's pretty bad, isn't it? I know that you've got great discipline in that area, Alstonation. Johan says, just built 15 crypt flayers and 2 vargles. Need to done painting them and 2 crypt infernals to 17th of February. I have the first tournament in Oslo. Awesome. The crypt flayers are an amazing model. Jack plays the help me out, Flesh Eater Court. What a great army. Absolutely brilliant. The Volgolf model's brilliant. I love it. Some questions. Are you a hacker? No, I'm not a hacker, I don't think. There you go. Derpimus Maximus says Bjorn or maybe Benny or there you go. Black Rider Bob says don't get into the habit of just buying models. Buy models as a reward for painting your existing ones so you don't end up having 80% of your army unpainted and being daunted to finish them. It's a really good point, that try and avoid the grey tide, as it's known, isn't it, where those boxes just build up. I have to say I am a little bit guilty of that. I do have some cupboard, what did Sam call it on Saturday? I think he called it the wardrobe of shame or something, where all of those models go that you never got quite around to building, never mind about actually building, but still in the box, that you absolutely needed. You had to buy them, and then they sit there for 2 years in their box. Old boys collecting Death Guard and Nurgle demons. With demons, I could dip my toe in Age of Sigmar. Absolutely, that's brilliant. That's one of the best things about the demon armies, and I'm tempted to do Zeech for exactly the same reason. But another time, as Elstonations just said, I definitely... it wasn't Elstonation. I think it was Black Rider Bob. I need to get some stuff painted first before I allow myself to wander off into there. Billy Lynch says, do you guys do the draw for December? Have I missed it? No, we've not done it yet. As I mentioned at the start of the show, everything's been exported, so the lists are all exported. I'm going to do the show on Wednesday. I was terribly poorly over Christmas, or rather into the new year. I was away on holiday for the first week of January, so I think I did explain when we did the draw that it would be beginning of January. Beginning of January has turned into middle of January, turned into late January due to me having a terrible flu. But we will draw it, and please, everybody who's commented and or has premium membership, your entry is safe and sound. I just haven't done the draw yet. Like I say, aiming for Wednesday on that. Gonk saying get well. C. Mawson says get well soon, Phil. I really need to check out the forum. Yes, definitely check out the forum. I am going to be putting all of my hobby blogs up this weekend, so everything I'm starting at the moment is going up. DJ the Lucky One saying an Ether Chemist for the leader, Engine Riggers, 10 Thunderers, 20 Arcanaut, 1 Frigate, not played it yet, only had 1 game of AOS. What a nice sounding army though, that sounds cool. Rowlet431 says to start off I just got a warlord and some squads and then built that, or just start collecting kit. Exactly. Start with one way or another, start with something that you can hit the table with and have some fun with. DJ the Lucky One, Plastic Crack, I'm hooked. And I think, yes, people just chatting to each other. I think people are offering each other games and all the rest. That'd be fantastic if we could do that. Okay, listen, it's 10 o'clock. That's probably the end of the show. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found what everybody else has contributed to the chat as well as useful. To recap, what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy playing? What do you enjoy painting? Think about that and the motivation first and foremost, but also have a plan. Sam, I know, just one last point. I know that Sam literally plans out, every unit and how it's equipped, and gives a great deal of thought into the structure and size of the army before he even starts buying models. And I actually think in hindsight, having that plan is really useful because he then has something to follow through on as well. So form a plan one way or another. Even if you've not gone through the full codex, use the list building software that's available, and have a look at some of the lists that are available on battle reports and those kind of things. But anyway, that's it for me. Thank you very much to everybody who came along tonight. That was brilliant. It's lovely to see both old and new faces on the chat as well. Absolutely fantastic. I'm trying to think what else we got going off this week. As I've said, I think I will aim for a short live show on Wednesday where we do the prize draw. Going to do that, and for the rest of this week, I'm going to be messing around in the studio, sorting out the ability to do more battle reports here at home as well. So that's all good news for the channel. So hopefully you're going to see more battle reports as the year goes on as well. Other than that, I've got a whole bunch of stuff to build and a whole bunch of stuff to get done in terms of hobby blogs on the forum. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the forum, go along to www.wargameronline.com and check out the forum. But also on there is a whole bunch of premium content. If you're not a premium member already, it's only $2.99 a month, and it really does help us do more and more of this content. So it keeps Sam in hobby food, and keeps us all going. So enables us to keep doing more and more. So thank you very much to all of those people who support us through premium membership, and hopefully we'll see more of you on there as well. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as Ralph says. Amit's not around because he's away at the moment, so Ralph's stepping in and doing all of that stuff. And, I'll say goodnight. Thank you very much all, and we'll see you again next week for Monday Musing 24. I also, like I say, I think I might do a little bit of a giveaway on Monday Musing 25, so we'll see you around. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you soon. Bye.